Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today at Autodesk University. We're very excited to be here. So for today's session, our panel today will really focus on collaborative estimating workflows that really can benefit both the pre-construction and VDC teams. So before we get started, I'm going to share our safe harbor statement here. So please just take a minute to review it. And during the session, we may make certain forward-looking statements. These statements are not a guarantee of future performance or deliverables, and really are just based on our current expectations. As well, if you do have any questions during the session, please type them in the question panel. And of course, if you see an interesting question, you can actually upvote it. It'll move that question higher on the list for us to answer. So Samira will be monitoring the question panel during the session, and we'll hopefully get to as many as we can. All right, so now let's get started here. So first off, my name is Rachel Trochi, and I am a technical solutions executive on the Autodesk Construction team. So I primarily work with our mid-sized customers, really assisting to streamline their construction process from pre-construction through to handover and operation. So my background's actually in civil engineering, and then I joined the construction side of things and really worked primarily with pre-construction teams to improve their quantification workflows by actually taking advantage of BIM technology earlier on in the project lifecycle to really differentiate themselves during project pursuit. And I'm also joined here today with Sarah Cunningham from Autodesk and an awesome group of panelists here that we're going to get to meet as well. So Sarah?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Cunningham. I'm a product manager here at Autodesk, and I currently work with the pre-construction team to develop the strategies for our pre-construction solutions. And I work really closely with teams like Rachel's, as well as with our customers to understand their priorities and develop priorities for new features and improvements and other things related to Autodesk takeoff. I've been at Autodesk for a while now, and I've been in product management for about 7 years. Before working on the pre-construction solutions, I worked in the infrastructure design space. And like Rachel, I have a background in civil engineering. And I'm excited today to talk to you about a little bit more about what we're going to dive into and to turn it over to our panelists to introduce themselves and their work. So a little bit about what we're talking about today. I think everybody who's here understands that building information modeling in BIM has been something that's been prevalent in the design space for a long time, as well as the pre-construction space. And we've seen surveys that say an overwhelming majority of people who are using BIM on various projects find a positive return on investment. And when I talk to pre-construction teams or VDC teams at contracting firms, we see a number of things, including teams that are leveraging BIM to develop new services for their customers, as well as playing a key role in estimating activities. And that was really the impetus for how we assembled the panel today to talk about what it means for companies to develop a practice with connected 2D and 3D workflows and how they're leveraging those in the pre-construction work that they're doing. So with that, I will turn it over to our panelists today from DPR Construction and Windover, and we'll start with Prashant from DPR.
Hey, thanks, Sarah, and thanks for having me. Prashant Sharma, I'm an estimator with DPR, work with the pre-construction team. I'm based in the San Francisco Bay Area region. So pre-construction, I work with our projects from concept all the way to the CD phases in all different types of industries, focusing on buildings. More importantly for our session here, I really like to push our pre-construction side, specifically estimating on what's new, what's the better way to do this. And that really is something that interests me. I'm passionate about it. And it's been great using some of the tools like Assemble and now Autodesk Takeoff, which really I feel has really enabled us estimators to, talk to the BIM models on the project and use them for our estimating needs as well. Great. Thanks for having me, and I look forward to the discussion.
Awesome.
Hello,
Jacob.
everyone. Hi, I'm Jacob Skrabarczyk. I sit in Austin, Texas, and support VDC for DPR's central region. I've been in construction for 14 years in a myriad of roles. Most of my career I've been focused on BIM and VDC. I have a civil engineering degree from the University of Texas at Austin. And I've been focusing a lot on simplifying and creating clarity around the handoff of models from design to pre-construction to construction into operations and some of our self-perform work. So really excited about the conversation today, and always enjoy working with folks like Prashant and getting them the data that they need to do their jobs.
A little about DPR Construction. We are a large general contractor. We are spread all across the United States. In fact, we are also stretched across Europe and Asia as well. We primarily focus on buildings, really focusing on these 5 core markets. Advanced tech, which today for us is a lot of data centers, healthcare, a lot of hospitals, largest of hospitals around the country being built by us. Higher education, where we focus a lot on university and high school projects, all the way from complicated science buildings to student housing. And then life science, something we've seen a lot of in the last 2 years, focusing on research facilities to CGMP facilities, working with the largest to the new and upcoming pharma companies, I would say around the world. And lastly, not least, commercial, building these mission critical facilities, the headquarters for the largest of companies, to a small tenant improvement in a downtown. We like all these challenges. And something key about DPR Construction, we love technical challenges, we love technical work, and innovation is something we've been known for. With that, I hand it over to Jacob.
Yeah, so Prashant mentioned that we were a large contractor. We're number 12 on ENR's top contractors in 2020. We have expertise and are known for our use of VDC. Precon Excellence, our special services group, which really focuses on improvements for target customers, sustainable construction. So Prashant and I both sit in net zero office buildings built by DPR, for DPR. Self-perform work. So we have our own labor for concrete and drywall and really a lot of the interior scope. And then a really strategic focus on prefabrication.
Right, and now we have Amr from Windover Construction.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amr Rafat. I'm the Vice President of Virtual Design Construction and Technology at Windover. I lead the VDC team to offer technology tech-based solutions for challenges on job sites. I received a Global 2019 Innovator of the Year Award from the Autodesk EEC Excellence Awards. I started my career designing public aquariums, and I've been in the industry for 21 years, working on innovative solutions using latest technology. I graduated, I did my master's degree in architecture from the Boston Architecture College. I'd love to talk a little bit about Windover and what we've been doing, like a brief introduction to Windover. We are 100% employee-owned construction management firm. We work on full services estimating, project management, virtual design construction. We are the go-to construction firm for modular and prefab construction in the New England area. We focus on solutions for additive manufacturing, prefab and modular. We have built over the years expertise with great project managers and superintendents in the modular arena, combined with technology to save time on schedules and deliver projects in the shortest and the most efficient ways. We work in academic, nonprofit, senior living is a growing field for us. Commercial life science is also growing for us in the New England area, as this field is really booming. Hospitality, we've been working on one of the finest hotels and hospitality projects in the New England area, as well as multifamily, where we known for very good modular approach and built this in-house expertise combined with technology, as well as residential. So we are basically building everything, and we like to build great things with great people. It's the focus of building. Most of our work is repeat client, and we focus on the relationship and the innovative solutions to build things safer, better, and in the most efficient ways for our clients.
Awesome.
So today we're going to talk about three different themes of things related to connected 2D and 3D workflows and pre-construction in general. We'll talk a little bit about technology strategy. We'll talk a little bit about how those strategies become workflows at each of these firms. And then we'll end our talk with a little bit of a look into the future and what we think that might look like. But to start, let's talk about VDC strategies at these firms. So we'll start with Amr, since you were the last person to speak. Let's talk about overall how VDC technology fits into your company's overall digital strategy.
Sarah, you are bringing up a great point about talking about how VDC technology fits in the company-wide strategy. It's not only about the VDC group, it's how we collaborate as a company with all the field team, with the project management team, and it becomes a mindset in the company that we are using technology to offer solutions for the challenges that comes every day in the field. So our VDC technology strategy is based on constant communication between VDC team and the field team to listen to any challenges and respond with all the different technologies. Wendover has been recognized globally a few times, and one of our modular projects, Canvas, was recognized for combining drone mapping and laser scanning to improve and transform the way we build modular construction. And actually, recently we've been using Autodesk Takeoff, using all these data built in our models to work collaboratively with our estimating group to improve efficiencies in the pre-construction process. And that's what I'd love to discuss with you and Prashant and Jacob on how we can transform this collaboration between VDC teams and estimating for right now and in the future.
Yeah, that's a really good point about how the technology has to work for different parts of the company, not just the VDC group. Prashant.
Thank you. I think from a DPR perspective, our strategic goals of prefabrication, self-perform, sustainability, to enable these goals become and make them a reality. Really, VDC is what's really, we see it as a key enabler for these goals to be achieved. Prefabrication without VDC, I don't think we even think about it like that. We really, whether it's cataloging our assemblies or building our modules virtually before we actually build them, VDC is it's just part of it. I don't think we think about it without VDC playing a role in it. Particularly for estimating, where I come in a lot more, utilizing the environment that the architects and the engineers are working with, which in today's, at least in our experience, most of the content is being created most of our building content is being created on Revit, and utilizing that to its maximum potential for my estimating needs is kind of key for me to be successful, make DPR successful, or for our project to be successful, and kind of utilizing all the content that is shared with us. So this is a goal, and it completely fits with DPR's perspective as well.
I'd say one of the interesting things and that is unique to DPR is that VDC is one of our 4 areas of strategic focus. It's in all the discussions and all the workshops, all the retreats. VDC is mentioned for all work groups. And it's how we do work today in pockets of excellence. And then the goal is that it's how we do business tomorrow, really across the entire life cycle. Really building towards this BIM-enabled workforce where it's not just a separate VDC group, that every single work group has expertise in VDC.
I think if I can add to that, it's a difficult question for us to answer at DPR because maybe 10 years back, we were still thinking about how does VDC technology fit into our goals, but it's just how we are doing all our projects today. And it's hard for us to think without utilizing VDC and run projects.
Yeah, okay. So let's continue the conversation about the technology strategy and something that comes up every time we talk about technology, at least in the last 18 months, and that's cloud. So as times have changed, as we all know they have, what's it been like for your firms to adapt cloud-based SaaS solutions, for example, like Takeoff or Assemble?
I can take that on first.
Yeah.
You mentioned Assemble and Autodesk Takeoff. The fact that they're on cloud is, I think, one of the key reasons why we are being able to have more participation within the pre-con group. So we are a group of about 400 pre-construction folks, dedicated pre-construction folks. So that's a big number since we are a large company. We get the skill set that everyone possesses is varying. So, and when you talk about BIM and VDC, Revit, and all the 3D platforms, you want to kind of summarize it into a few key skill sets that you should probably want to add on to another whole large work group. Otherwise, we would not be successful. So tools like Assemble and ATO, in fact, I would even say BIM 360 has helped us as well, because that's made the model content available to a larger group, which wasn't so used to being in the 3D world a lot. So I think it's kind of been a step by step. BIM 360 made it easier for people to get into the 3D world. And again, because it's on the cloud, we don't have to install a lot of content on our machines, so that's great. And then going step by step, Assemble's been great in terms of, okay, it's kind of like a ready set way of viewing the model has been great in some way, again, on the cloud. So it doesn't take me 20 minutes to open up a model and consume that content. And then taking into advanced, the Autodesk Takeoff, where we are still used to thinking of estimates in a 2D perspective. It is a proven way. It does work. So kind of emulating the 2D workflows in 3D in a somewhat curated manner, because it's on the cloud. So I can support somebody else and manage it as a setup, as well as we have scenarios where we have remote teams overseas who are supporting us with some of this 3D model management. A lot. So high level, again, summarizing, if it's not on the cloud, it's kind of hard to visualize how, in my scenario, an estimator would just take a software and run with it if he's never done this before, or if we are issuing another tool for them to learn pretty quick and doing it all on their own on their machine. So it's been an enabler for us, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Amar, what do you think?
I think the cloud-based solutions has been and softwares have been a really breakthrough on how we collaborate and communicate internally and externally with our design teams and our clients. For example, I see it on different perspectives. The first perspective is the Autodesk Drive, for example. We use that all the time with our projects to deliver laser scans that we took on site to share point clouds and share virtual tours with measurement tools. The client not necessarily has to be really good at Revit to or at Recap Pro to see all those scans and go through the virtual tour. But when they go to Autodesk Drive and gives them that link, they can really view the as-built documentation of MEEBs for future facility maintenance, or view that historic preservation project we're working on. So I see that the Drive has been a really great technology for us to communicate and collaborate with others. We see also on another perspective, the Autodesk takeoff, which we've been using for a few months now. You have the really the VDC team who is really good in Revit, 3D Studio Max, and Assemble, and you have the estimating group who has great expertise in estimating and the numbers and all the good stuff. So how to fill that gap and bring that collaboration into really a different level was Autodesk Takeoff, which had helped us to communicate in real time all our findings, whether it's a design model or a model we are developing in-house. And it becomes not only a visualization tool for our estimating group, but as well as analyzing it, breaking all the different pieces to see what's ceiling square footage versus other takeoff methods, screen takeoffs or 2D takeoffs. So we have been seeing a breakthrough in how we really, this cloud-based solutions have helped us collaborate better and in a real time with our internal teams to really deliver more accurate estimates, to deliver to be as a more integrated team than ever.
Just want to add one more thing. I mean, one of the big concerns anytime we go to a cloud-based solution is performance. And really with the quantification workflows and estimating workflows, performance is actually really great. Like the estimators want to receive Revit content that's broken into categories by unit format. And so just that nature of wanting a model broken into these certain ways makes it so that they can open it really fast. There's actually performance benefits from using these cloud-based solutions. If you take away, if you're using single sign-on and they can get in right away, they don't have to install any software and they can just get right to the data. It's super helpful. Takes away all the friction of getting a new user into the platform.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point there. Just ease of entry to get into a lot of these different tools with cloud-based solutions. Before we kind of double click into the workflows, though, I'm curious, Prashant, from your perspective, sitting more on the estimating side, and a lot of the tools that a lot of estimators are comfortable with are typically desktop-based solutions. So what has that transition been like for you guys and your estimating teams to, start to leverage some of those cloud-based solutions?
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, I think what's happening a lot more now is our typical estimator, the role of an estimator or the person who fits that role of an estimator is also constantly evolving. We've had this also the scenario of thinning of the lines between who does what in a particular company as well. So I just want to start there. So again, would say the skill sets really vary. The second piece is, because of this, a lot of folks are working together and working collaboratively, both internally, externally, is really the need of the hour today. That's another factor to play in mind. And then I would say the other demand, I would say not demand, that the great development that's happening on our estimating side is today we are not really most forward-thinking projects are not focusing on, okay, you do an estimate update today, and then after 3 months there'll be a drawing revision, go from CD to DD to CD or whatever, and then there'll be another estimate. Now today we are really aim is to go as real time as much as possible. So being able to work collaboratively, being able to take the content from the architects and engineers in a more efficient manner, as well as in a more real-time basis. That's what we look for. Now, all of this is pointing towards a kind of a cloud-based solution, so that you're not downloading content, loading the file into a desktop platform. Just downloading takes 10 minutes, and then you upload it, open it, export it.
Mm-hmm.
That is 4 hours that typically I get to do an estimate sometimes. So, that just makes the tool not that useful. And if you could push that boundary even more, something like an Autodesk Cloud, where the architect is uploading the content live, where Jacob and his team, they do a great job of I am not managing the model, which models to be viewed into my estimate, but the specialist, the VDC specialist who is managing the change management of the model is telling me, okay, use this model, and it's already there in the right spot for you to use. You just have to open up your tool for takeoff to access that model. Well, that's now we're getting somewhere where desktop is that's like way behind, where all this is not even possible there. So that's my perspective. It's really helpful to have this happening in a cloud format and kind of in a collaborative way.
Awesome. Yeah, it's definitely something that, we've kind of seen across the board with desktop solutions, really just kind of lacking a lot of that collaboration. So awesome. So let's kind of double click a little bit more into some of these quantification workflows specifically. So Prashant, just to pick on you again, describe kind of the quantification workflows currently used to add DPR and kind of, what that is looking like in terms of a lot of those collaborative approaches within the cloud-based solutions.
What we do is we take 5 highlighters of different colors. We take a drawing set and we highlight. I'm just kidding. But that is how our industry has evolved over the years. And there are still estimators who like to have a set of plans in their hands. And no, we don't do takeoffs by hand, but there's still estimators who like to run through drawings in their hands. Now, tools like PlanGrid or, maintaining the current file set have enabled a lot of estimators to switch over gradually to a digital format. But so that's one. Well, physically, how do you consume the data is the very first piece. The 1,000-page spec book and the 200 pages of drawings, how do you consume that in the most efficient manner? Mm-hmm. So that's one. Well, again, the answer is, how do you get to that data fastest? And, instead of sending it to the printers or, if there's a change in the drawing set every day. So you just have no choice now anymore, but to see it on your screen. And the pandemic has kind of working remotely has kind of trained us all to see it on the screen better. So that's a great transformation, I would say. I know we are discussing VDC and I'm talking like 2D printouts, but that is changing first. Then the other perspective is we are used to doing 2D, by we I mean estimators are often used to doing 2D takeoffs. The tool that a lot of us GCs have been using hasn't changed so much in a lot of in so many years, but a tool like Autodesk Takeoff is a good fresh perspective on even 2D takeoff, not just 3D. But what's happening, what I'm seeing at least happening, is there's been like this evolution of all the 3D tools in takeoff, like from trying to do apps in Revit to assemble to today ATO, and on the other side, on the 2D side, going from highlighters to trying to scale AutoCAD drawings in CAD to scaling PDF drawings to now trying to combine the two together in 3D and 2D, I think is helping us estimators a lot, because now what I can do is the same workflow which I'm doing in 2D, which I'm well trained to do, which is a way to consume the project information and making sure I catch everything. I can apply the same workflow in 3D, and the two takeoffs can be merged together to make my success, the estimate input successful. So the bulk of the workflow transformation that I'm seeing today is more centered towards that. You are used to doing a 2D takeoff. I'm not going to force you to take off the 3D model content just because it's faster. But understand that we as estimators have the responsibility of taking the risk of the project. So the workflow has to be such that I, get all the scope of work visualized. So take your 2D workflow and kind of take that workflow in a 3D environment and back it up with a 2D takeoff simultaneously. That is successful, and kind of standardizing how you do that every time makes that workflow better. So that's kind of high levels what where we are heading towards, at least.
Awesome. And I'd be lying if I said I haven't heard from a customer, within probably the past month or so that they're using highlighters still. So it's definitely very prevalent out there in the industry. But it's awesome to see you guys are, really starting to push those boundaries a little bit and really taking what you can from a 3D model, because, that's a lot of times a misconception that you can do 100% of your takeoff within that 3D model, but in reality, you're still going to have to go back into 2D and still collaborate with some of those quantities. But awesome. So Amar, I'm curious to hear what the quantification workflows kind of look like over at Windover.
The combination between the 3D and the 2D. In fact, what we are trying to do is to build a 3D building from 3D data. It's all about the data we have. So the architect starts designing by adding all this design data and quantities into information-rich Revit model. And then what we do is that we do coordination and then print 2D drawings that being used in the field to build a 3D building. What we've been trying at Windover to do is to build a 3D building from the 3D data without losing all this information, trying to go 3D, 2D, 3D, 2D, and 3D. In our MEP coordination process, using mixed reality, for example, to do overlays between what's in the model and what a new ductwork will go on site, that helps, for QC. But in the quantification part, what we're trying to do is that for years, we have this information-rich Revit models that has all this quantity data built into it. You can find all the quantities, you can export it to Excel. So that was adding a little bit of sophistication to the process where you can extract those data. What actually Autodesk has been doing, and it's a breakthrough, and that was Assemble and Autodesk Takeoff to simplify this process and make it. I agree with Jacob when he mentioned about the performance and how the look of these Autodesk Takeoff models will look like, and analyzed and break to pieces. So it was a breakthrough with Autodesk Takeoff, actually, when you can break all these different Revit data in this web-based cloud solution to make it simpler and faster and in real time to communicate with the estimator. In terms of real time, I think Prashant mentioned that models get updated all the time, and that's a challenge. So every couple of weeks, we have a new design model. So what we've been doing at Windover is that our VDC group work on updating those models into the cloud, and so that our estimating team can look and work from the latest models. And that takes not much time at all, but it also, you have to be on top of always updating the model. Sometimes the models are not the key thing here. Models sometimes are not modeled to be for model-based estimates. So we need to go to the Revit model, rename everything, and making sure that this data will be digested very well in the Autodesk Takeoff to be used efficiently by the estimating team. And that's what we've been doing. We took the initiative. If the model is not ready for model-based estimates, we go and dive into it, rename everything, make sure all the estimates. And it really saves time. When we start building this library in-house of models and estimates and numbers, working together collaboratively with the estimating team, it's a huge investment for the future when you're trying to get all these RFPs out and all these quantities out and this estimates out. So we think of it as a long-term investment in this technology to save us not only time, but also enhance our estimates and making sure we work in the most efficient way and can be easily communicated in a very appealing way to the clients so they can understand their projects very well too.
Awesome. All right. So just for sake of time here, we jump over to our next question. So curious, how do your teams really go about working with internal and external teams to really share models? What works well? What challenges do you run into? And, there's kind of two different parts of this question. So first, I'm curious, how do you guys collaborate with, architects earlier on in the project to be able to get access to those models? And then I guess second part of that would be more internally. How do you guys collaborate with your VDC teams from the estimating side to get access to those models? So Jacob, do you want to start first on this one?
Yeah, sure. So, really our goal when working with external partners is to push for them to host their content on our account within our Docs platform. And so, if they can cloud work share and we can use design collaboration in some kind of design build or integrated delivery method, that's the ideal situation. That's what we're after. It's not realistic to expect every project to go that way. We're trying to push to really go beyond just asking for the model. We have to have really purposeful conversations about, filling out a design responsibility matrix, defining what models we're going to get, what use cases they're available for and when, and just trying to eliminate as much friction from the handoff. We still have folks that are using legacy platforms and sort of legacy cultural challenges where they want to share a disclaimer that maybe says, you can't use this model for any purpose. And so really trying to be proactive and chasing the right work that would put us in a situation where we can influence the design, influence the model to actually influence the design and to get models and drawings that actually are constructible and that can be used to put together a good estimate.
Awesome. And Prashant, curious to kind of hear your side or your thoughts on this coming from, specifically the estimating side, because I know a lot of times architects always put up kind of that resistance initially when it comes to sharing those models, especially with some of those pre-construction workflows.
So I do also want to make a point, first of all, that for at least our approach for the most part has been, we are not recreating 3D models from scratch to estimate from. There's some thoughts out there that there's value in that. At least at this point, we're not. For most part, we are trying to consume the content created by the engineers and architects. I want to just start there. Now, the next piece is, I think, the first thing we usually hit is we get that indemnity, because the indemnity form that Jacob mentioned. Use this model, but if use it for information only. We typically still get that. I think we are finding workflows to work with the model, even though it's for information, but still adhere to the drawings. And I think so we've been able to find ways to do that pretty successfully. The next piece is that on the challenge bucket is different architects and different engineers still, their libraries are different. They're similar, but they're still different. And different companies are modeling different levels of details at various intervals. And that's what I think our VDC team does a really great job at. Kind of, it could be a good and a bad, right? Because it's on the other side, our VDC team is kind of coordinating through execution plans or whatever. We would like to see in the DD model, could you have the drywall model with their fire rating, for example, things like that. So I think that's been it's a challenge, but I think we are finding success there as well. And then overall, it's also on our side about internal teams, making sure folks are welcoming the approach of the using 3D models, and not having everything modeled from day one is usually seen as a challenge. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, kind of having a hybrid approach of 2D and 3D management during estimates that's where we've been successful. But the other key part here is a kind of a challenge, as well as what works well, is pick a tool that is, I would almost say, like a minimalist looking tool. It doesn't have like 1,000 icons on it. And, that seems to be like the thing the software developers are focusing on. And I think some of the plan grid and Autodesk takeoff kind of goes there. If you ask an estimator to start a new tool and it has like a huge panel of icons on top, not really encouraging. But something like Autodesk takeoff literally have, I think like maybe 6 icons on the whole page. Working with internal teams, getting them going, that's been, I think, the other piece that does make things easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely kind of heard you mention the simplicity factor of, especially when you're initially starting, probably for an estimator, it's a bit daunting opening up that model initially. So that's definitely a good piece there on some of the simplicity piece. So Amar, what are your thoughts over from the Windover side?
In the recent years, I have seen a mindset shift between working between builders like us and architects. In fact, right now, most of our projects, 90% of them, maybe fully coordinated in Autodesk Navisworks. So we receive a workable, information-rich models from architects and engineers, and then we put all the we work with our subs to build all these different models for different trades. So if we can reach that level of detail in modeling, in fact, with every constructability review, you can really count at some point to some extent on these models to give you some estimates about quantities. That's externally. So it's not becoming now the architect model, the engineer model, and the subs model. It's becoming our model as a collaborative approach, more for like working together with the architect, and it grows as we go because our architects attend our coordination meetings on weekly basis, and they can update the model live, and we can update that on the Autodesk takeoff. Working internally, for years we've been using Revit and use this data to help our estimating team in a way they can look at it in Excel sheets, on 3D views. But in the recent years, we have noticed with Assemble and Autodesk Takeoff, we can always update that and communicate. The estimating team can really share those models, look at it, analyze it, and use it actually in their presentation internally and externally to communicate the estimates and all the volumes and all these different pieces. So that's how we communicate internally and externally with our design partners.
Awesome.
I just want to add one more thing. So like within the internal team, sharing models, we're trying to really eliminate all the friction. So we're really excited about some of the tools where we can, publish to takeoff from docs, publish to assemble from docs, and just taking another step out of the process. So it's not, hey, you can get to the data tomorrow. It is, within hours versus days. And just eliminating that friction really works better for the timelines that we're talking about in pre-construction. We're trying to get to more real time, and we have shorter windows to provide that feedback.
Right. Yeah. And really being able to kind of tap into that, central common data environment that everyone has access to probably makes it so much easier for teams to be able to, get in and all access that information internally. Awesome. All right. So do you guys have any examples of how your organization has overcome resistance to trying new technology? I know obviously in the construction landscape, and even more so probably more prevalent in the pre-construction landscape, some of that resistance to trying new technology. I'm curious how you guys, have overcome some of those examples. Jacob, you want to start first?
Yeah, I'll start. So, within DPR, one of our core values is ever forward. So we have a little bit different problem than, or different challenges than maybe other players. There's plenty of folks who want to try new technology and workflows. What we really have to focus on is like taking full advantage of those workflows before trying to move to the next shiny object. And so a lot of that is around like, what are the right tools to use? When should we use them? Really just sharpening the saw and getting better at using some of the technology we have now and taking full advantage of it. And even then though, not just surface level taking advantage of the tools. So like in Assemble, it's not just looking at the model. It's when we've been able to like break down the model by assembly code and have uniformat level 3 type breakdowns that really gets us to start taking advantage of the tool, as opposed to just checking the box that, yep, we use VDC on this project. We're using it for estimating. That's helped us create the structure and the focus that we need to keep taking advantage of those technology tools.
Right. And I'm sure, as you kind of dig deeper into those tools, you're finding even more benefits and value on those projects. So now it's not just, again, like you mentioned, just checking the box. It's really, what value and benefit can we really get from these different solutions? So awesome. Mar, I'm curious over on the Windover side of things. What are your thoughts here?
So, you bring up a great point actually with how we use technology and workflows within the culture. So at Windover, we embrace the mindset of innovation. In fact, we are actually looking at things. It's not like about the latest tool or latest drone mapping or latest laser scan. It's about the solution based, more of a solution. And all of our supers and project managers are always eager to embrace new solutions that built on technology. For example, we launched last year our platform, IDEA platform. It stands for Innovations for Design, Engineering, and Automation. And we wanted to extend our leading edge technology to the whole EEC industry. We've been working on projects in Texas and in California and in Florida and in Pennsylvania and actually in Quebec to help other EEC firms, including engineers and architects and peer group builders to embrace technology and resolve challenges on site using additive manufacturing, laser scanning, drone mapping, and BIM. Our estimating group as well, embracing technologies. It's all about not the latest tool, but it's more about the solution. So finding an example, a project doesn't have to be big, and working on it, show how this technology will work to save time, offer clients substantial cost savings. That's a key. Then everyone will be in, and we use it on most of our projects. That's the approach we've been taking.
Awesome. And Prashant, do you have any examples from the estimating perspective?
Sure. Yeah. The estimators known for the VDC folks would, I'm sure, say this, like the estimators are kind of the most difficult ones to kind of get on board on the use the 3D model more, guys. Come on, like we are kind of known as that, but maybe for some reasons too, like, the work was complicated. I think what's worked well is, well, here are the issues and try to solve them. That's really number one. It's pretty basic. I think a few things that have worked well for us is there is, again, the wide skill set. We've tried to host office hours in our own company, some region-based, some nationally, have depending on what topic. And as simple as, hey, I'll be here on the call for 45 minutes. If you guys join, great. Whoever has time, join. And it has ended up being, some great conversations. Folks join in who just want to listen to, I have no idea how to get started on this, but I want to hear what the other guys are saying. How did they start? And it's brought up some good conversations. That is one great piece to get people on board. The other piece is, I think, when you get this resistance is maybe for those who are starting to get into the 3D environment more, don't the very first takeoff or the very first time you want to use the 3D model, don't try to do everything from the model on the very first time, piece by piece. Or I would even say the very first time in your project, what I've seen successful is just aim to have a model on Assemble or BIM 360 or Autodesk Takeoff if you want to go all the way there. But even BIM 360 or Assemble, just have the VDC specialist make the environment for you. All you have to do is just log in and you're literally looking at the model right then, and use it for your meetings or use it, to run through with your project team. That has been quite successful for me, where we are in a meeting with an architect and an owner, and you bring up the model. What does the ceiling look like? Why are we looking at a plan when we can actually just open up the model? And everybody in the room is like, why is the estimator opening the model and showing, is he the estimator or is he the VDC guy? But no, really, it's just like a set of plans. So it doesn't mean I'm doing any takeoff, but by just going in there and, using it part by part, is a good way to kind of get more buy-in from additional team members in a perspective like this. And maybe another example is a subcontractor reached out and I'm like, okay, I have this assembled model. Would you like to use it? And he's like, well, I don't open Revit files. And I'm like, well, their understanding of 3D is, okay, you would get a Revit file, download it, and then it will usually ask for, oh, you don't have the right Revit version. And so then you have to update that. So it's a long process in their mind, but it's also a little bit of maybe educating some, definitions for other team members outside your organization as well. Okay, here's assemble, log in, and there you go. So different ways of addressing it.
I think that's a really good point about ease of use. It's come up a couple of times, but I also wanted to go back to the point that both you and Amr made about just start small, whether it's piloting 3D use on a small project or a piece of a project, or I loved the suggestion, Prashant, that you had, just build the model and open it. Like that could be enough for your first pilot. And then maybe from there it evolves. I think those are two really good suggestions. And I agree. It's a really good way to start, just to get your feet wet. You don't have to do everything with the model all at once on one project, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think baby steps is what's going to start to, kind of get you a little bit more and more comfortable as you go. I mean, I remember working with one customer, and all they looked at within the model was just the railing on the project. And they were able to figure out that they had priced it incorrectly off of a 2D drawing, because they initially priced it as metal railing when it should have been glass. So it's just kind of those small things that start to, slowly get you more and more comfortable. So awesome. Great points there. All right. So just to kind of, dive into the next question here. So imagine you guys have the opportunity to join a new firm and start to implement a VDC practice from the ground up. How would you approach it? And Amar, I'll toss this one over to you to go first here.
So VDC, this is a great point, how we implement VDC practices. First is the definition of VDC. We have to define all the different VDC aspects. It's more about solution-based. It's a part, I like when Jacob mentions that at DPR, it's a part of, it's involved in every operational part in the company, same as in Wendover. So what we've been trying to do is that it's embedded in the mindset of the superintendents, the project managers, the financial experts in the company. It's embedded in the mindset. So a mindset that can embrace technology, not only for nice images, but for all the data that's embedded into it that can make all the processes more efficient, provide clients substantial cost savings. Like in our prefab projects, we have found that you have a way to go in prefab and modular, or a way to go traditional. That we have made it the case with all the different studies that you can, and all real projects we've been through, is that if you go prefab, it has to be offer some cost savings, or at least shed few months of the schedule, which is delivering the project early. So VDC practices in a new company that didn't start as that, first start small, as I said earlier. Start on a little project, take a pilot project that's small, so you can show in it all the great capabilities VDC technologies. And VDC includes BIM into it, but it also includes all these different great technologies such as laser scanning, drone mapping, BIM coordination, virtual reality, augmented reality, all these different players that when combined together can offer a real solution based tech first approaches and solutions to solve the problems on site. So starting small with in these practices will really help. Like even in the assemble project or Autodesk takeoff, finding a project that could be applied to, it doesn't have to be big. It could be a custom home, or at Wendover, actually, we started this on an academic project and a custom home project, and we did a regular estimate versus what we used in the model to compare. So this is how these processes can really train us and make us even look for better solutions, better ways to do things. And this all comes back to the mindset, innovative mindset that we embraced at Wendover to build not in the always same way we've been building with, but hey, there is another way we can do this better, more efficient, and even more greener, more sustainable too.
Awesome. And Jacob, what about from your perspective at your new imaginary firm here?
Yeah, so I think we've talked a lot about technology and ease of use. I think one huge piece about this is just building relationships and building up credibility. So I think that really going out and, pushing for buy-in from the work groups themselves. So in our example, working with Prashant on, our testing and piloting of Autodesk Takeoff has sort of built up our relationship, and we understand each other's skill set and what we can bring to the table, and we're aligned on goals. And as we try to go and approach and increase the adoption of VDC, I know I have an ally, and that he's an ally that will come with me and help share that message. And really going into each of the work groups all the way to the business development side and making sure that everybody needs to be speaking the same language, or it's not going to work. If the entire company, the entire organization isn't going to get behind VDC, we aren't going to get to these long-term goals. And it all starts with, I've had some really great conversations with Prashant, and, building that network, building those teams, grabbing a beer, having a meal, enjoying happy hour together. Those kind of things are vitally important to making VDC successful. And it's not just, do people like the technology, but do they like your team? Do they like the people that they're working with?
Right. Yeah, it's a really good point there. And just kind of, I feel like VDC is almost the center cornerstone for a lot of the different phases of that project lifecycle. So building relationships with your pre-construction teams, building relationships with your field and project controls teams as well is definitely hugely important here. So we have one more question, just kind of looking into the future, but Samira, is there any questions from the Q&A that we want to touch on?
Yeah, there's one that has been upvoted quite a bit, so I want to make sure we just take a minute to answer it, because I know we are short on time. Yeah. As someone who's trying to teach estimators how to leverage BIM data, one of our attendees mentioned that they sometimes struggle with that, we can use either Assemble or Autodesk Takeoff, and they want to know if the panelists are using both, and which solution do they lead with and why for certain situations. I know Prashant, I believe DPR is using both. So if you can touch on that really quickly.
I'm not sure.
In case we lost Prashant. Yeah. So
yeah, let's How about Jacob?
Let's try Jacob.
Today we're leading with Assemble. We've scaled that to all the regions in the company, and we're using it successfully to get folks to view the model, dive into quantities. That's our go-to or our default. For Autodesk Takeoff, we're piloting, but there's just a ton of energy and excitement around it. The estimating and pre-con folks are just, there's a lot of buzz and a lot of energy around it. But we are, kind of looking into like, how do we scale this, and how do we make sure that we're ready with all of our training documentation, and that we proceed in a professional manner so that it's not confusing to the users.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you.
Amr, what about your perspective from Windover?
I see Autodesk Takeoff is very user-friendly, and actually our estimators loved using it, as well as our VDC team. It's designed to be very straightforward with less icons, and I see it very powerful, working very good as a cloud-based solution. Again, the focus here is the only way we can advance our industry is really breaking the silos and making all our companies, and our construction is about collaboration. So breaking the silos with solutions like Autodesk Takeoff, so that VDC teams can communicate with estimating, and other solutions which we use with the field with BIM 360. That's how we break the silos and really collaborate in real time, which will have a great impact on our built environment and the way we build more efficient and safer and greener.
Perfect. So we did have quite a few questions come in, so we have actually saved those questions. So if we didn't answer the questions as they were coming in, a lot of the answers the panelists were giving addressed those questions, but we will reach out to you after the session. So turning it over to you, Rachel.
Awesome. Right. So I don't think we have just one more minute left, so I'm not sure we have time for this last question here. But you guys can think about it in the audience as well. And just to kind of close out a little bit, I just first off want to thank, all the panelists here, Jacob, Amar, Prashant. It was awesome getting a chat with you guys here today. And, thank you for sharing all your expertise with our attendees. So I hope you guys all found today's session to be beneficial and informative. And as you leave the session, I really do want to challenge you to continue the conversation at your companies. Really ask yourself and your colleagues, what role can BIM play in giving your company a competitive advantage? And what ways can you guys really start to digitize and optimize your current estimating workflows to fit your specific needs? So please also check out the class page for additional handouts with a lot of important information related to our class topic here. And there's obviously, of course, a ton of awesome content throughout AU that really dives deeper into a lot of the things that we discussed today. And feel free to connect with any of us to further this discussion. Click on our name in the AU system. It'll give you the option to send in a connection request. And we look forward to speaking with you guys. So I hope you enjoy the rest of AU. And thanks again for joining us today for our session.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
Rachel.